Well, this was unexpected. Hey Goblins, and welcome back. My name is Beige, and I think I'm the new default here in the Aether system. Now, for the longest time it used to be Devin. You used to be the host of the system, the one we changed the legal name to when we ended up doing the legal name change. And he was known as the main altar for a while. But that's really not how it was with our system. We don't exactly function like the stereotypical core host and then fragments, really. He was one of the altars himself, but was just put in the position of default by where he was in the system. And that's something that has been changing. He didn't know it was changing. The main group of altars didn't know about the default changes and how that was working every 4 or so years, because I used to be one of the old ones. Yeah. I was the one that was default from about middle school. Yeah, I was middle school. I was a middle school one. And I went by a different shortening of our old name, and I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you what our old name was. That's just not going to be on this channel. And yes, I'm going to knit while I'm talking about this whole thing. So yeah. I am now the default. I am the one that wakes up in the mornings, and whenever anyone retreats from the front, I'm just the one that's left, I suppose. I'm almost always co-conscious with most altars that are around me, except for when they have stronger amnesia barriers, or if it's nighttime. Amnesia's worse in the night for us sometimes. And I came back around to be a hosting figure again. It's weird. I didn't think that that would be a thing. I didn't think I would be a fronting altar, and especially not aware of everything that's going on. Yet we're figuring out how our system is really structured, instead of how it was showing itself to be structured. That can be very different things, because Cleveland, he's our gatekeeper dude, and he is the Lord of withholding information from us. I swear. It's such a struggle. He always keeps those memories kind of just out of reach, and the knowledge just out of reach, until we find it for ourselves on our own research terms or whatever, and then he's like, yeah, that was that. Good job. We're like, dude, why didn't you tell us? And it's the whole, teach a man to fish kind of thing. But, on a mental health and life scale, I suppose. Yeah. So given the fact that we lived such a tumultuous, strenuous life, we had to keep our facade of normal child who's good at school and obedient and quiet and, able to socialize, I suppose. We had to do that. So we couldn't have the same host for the whole time, because altars get fatigued if they are put through too much, and we were going through a lot. So naturally we formed a pattern of shifting that every so often to kind of make sure that what happened last fall wasn't, our life. So yeah, I'll kind of tell you a bit about how this one happened, because it was kind of unique. And it kind of ties in with the whole integration and stuff too, with Dorian who was previously Devin and Morpheus. They fused back together because they were previously one alter that was split apart and are now back together to some extent. Yeah, so some people might think of integration as a loss or a reason to grieve. I just realized you can't really see what I'm doing with this. Scooch back. At least this microphone is right by my face and not moving. That's good. Yeah. Some people think of integration as kind of a loss of someone, or like some people compare it to death, even though that's not the case. It's really not the case. But for us, it was a little bit different. We do kind of we mourn Devin. We mourn the fuck out of that guy. Oh my god, he did not get what he deserved. He got so much worse. Oh my god. And we are so sad about that. But we are not sad about the integration because that's what saved him. That's what saved all of us. Without that, man, we'd probably be in the hospital right now. I'm not even exaggerating. So what happened to him, why we're so sad, is because we registered him as dead before he even integrated. We counted him as dead since last May. It's been a long time. He made some very grand act of causing his own brain such distress, adding on anxiety and kind of just making it loop a lot to the point of breaking himself. And he became, Devin with the O slashed. He got slashed. That wasn't Devin anymore. It was part of him, yeah, but it wasn't the same thing. And now there's other fragments of him. Lennox and the other one who hasn't picked a good name yet. They're pretty cool. Yeah, Lennox holds basically all of our stomach for horror movies. Now we got a little squeamish. We get a little squeamish sometimes with horror. It's weird. That was more so after him splitting himself. It's weird. So he's integrated back with his parts, not the ones he split off. So there's him. He split himself. There's a couple more alters. And then there's Morpheus over here. Previously, these all were one alter. But now there's 75% of Devin back with Morpheus. And then there's two others that aren't there. And people are wondering why Dorian is so incomplete feeling. And guys, the struggle is real. This your system mates don't always put together the pieces that are right there. Sometimes it takes looking at it from another angle, and sometimes it's hard to not be visibly exasperated. Because I got taken from being a host to being aware, very much like what happened with Devin, now Dorian. And yeah, we're keeping the legal name of Devin because we already changed it. We went through so much to change that thing. It took us months and more than $100. I don't think we're going to be changing our name again unless it's really unfitting and we decide to do that by the time we get married this October. 90% chance we're keeping that name because it's not related to any alters. That's another thing that's really awesome about this whole thing. There are no alters named Devin in our system now. There might be in the future, but there's not now. And we kind of enjoy that too, because previously, whenever anyone would call us, be like, oh, hey, Devin this, Devin that, and he'd be pulled to the front, and he would be irate. He hated fronting. He hated being out here. He hated people. He's got just everything. He was a very dark person. Very full of anger. That was his primary emotion, was anger. He was angry all the time. And that's kind of, I suppose, what propelled us into adulthood. That was kind of his purpose, you know. Our system has alters planned in rotation for going on through our life. And I guess his time was up. But, you know, there was kind of an adverse whole thing with that all because, you know, we weren't supposed to basically lose all of our spare weight and get ulcers so bad we can barely function and just have zero external life or anything. God, it wasn't supposed to get like this, but it did. But now the rotation is carrying on and picking back up, and things are getting better. Like, look, our cheeks are even less caved in than the last video. Isn't that awesome? And we haven't had this much traction on our engagement ring for months. So that's pretty bomb. Yeah, so where is Dorian now? So, Devon's body was kind of like, in the inner world, it was sort of like a statue frozen in one place, and the attic at the top of the mountain. It kind of leveled up. You got a bigger spot where he's frozen at the top of something, but it's our solar structure. We don't call it a solar system. Our system is a solar structure where it goes, you know, there are orbits that are going around planets and stuff, but there's also up and down. There's planets and land masses around in space. And Dorian is now at the top of that. It turns out he had kind of put himself in the middle of this big energy thing in an effort to protect the rest of the system. And that's what broke him into Morpheus and Devon. But now he's about 85% himself again at the very tippity top of things, at the very top landmass, where it's just a very bright bunch of light. It's a lot of lights. It's really hard to see what's there because there's so much lights, like white and gold, but so bright you can't really process anything. That's where the top dogs live too. The ones in charge of everything. The ones the ones who refer to themselves as platinum diamonds. And there's give or take 10 of them. I guess our system is really enjoying its sets of 10. Yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. That's what happens when you try to talk about things you're not supposed to talk about yet. It's stuff I had to cut out. Yeah. We'll get to that eventually. But he had flown up into that thing, and people had given Morpheus artificial memories about what went down, so it would really repel them from each other, kind of subconsciously, to keep them from integrating until it was okay to do so, I guess. Which, you know, may never have come. That may never have happened for it to be okay for them to integrate, but it turned out that it was absolutely necessary, and we had to do that. So we had to, you know, be all like, hey, dude, these memories were a freaking lie. Sorry, bruh. You remember this? It was actually about 10 times worse. and it wasn't actually that. Yeah, we toned down a lot of things in our memories. A lot of things. And I'm part of, you know, I got moved down to the center planet that's where I got kind of, when I wasn't a hosting figure anymore, I got taken down to the center planet, the one in the middle of the regular one. It's kind of like the mini version where all the really deeper altars are. Not the deepest, but the next layer down, I suppose. It's where Bad Wolf and Frankie live. It's where there's a lot of really sketchy buildings and stuff. A carousel. But that's a freaking long story. We're writing a book now. I started writing a book. We're gonna call it Tales of Aether's Vanaheim, and it's gonna be, just an assortment of stories of what happened in the inner world, just kind of all over the place. Kind of like how it was for us uncovering the stuff. But, at the beginning of each chapter, each story, there's a little blip about what was going on in our life at that time. So you can kind of like compare it. And then we're also going to be writing like an autobiography about what happened just to make this. I don't know what to call it. Maybe something like Up in the Ether or From the Top. Feel like, alright guys, let's just spill our guts about everything. That's going to be a while though. That's going to take a second to write. Both of those are going to take a minute to write. So just stay vaguely tuned for that, but we'll tell you when things are making progress. So yeah, how did I get this job now that Dorian is, back to being a stronger alter, and he is now moved moved up in the world a little bit. He went dormant a little bit. He went a little bit dormant. He stopped fronting. He stopped fronting. He didn't want to. This wasn't his cup of tea. He was, made more for the school life. He thrived the best in a college environment. And this is just different. And so it's time to grow a little bit, I suppose. And yeah, I'm sad about this. I'm really sad it all happened that way. But it just slowly became more that he was in the background, co-conscious with me, rather than me co-conscious with him. And then he just slowly started stepping further and further back. And then, for some reason, I keep waking up in the morning. Yeah, I got dressed. I put on 2 beige things because how could I not? It's hilarious. Do it for the Vine. Yeah, I've got a old kind of sense of humor, a slightly different speech pattern, I think. We used to have like really bad speech anxiety in middle school. I think we had kind of a stutter, but I don't know if I do now. I don't think so. But my speech is not exactly as smooth as I'd like. I still mess up a bunch. And it kind of sounds like I lisp a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think so. Other people are saying that I lisp a little bit. It's just the way I hold my mouth, I think. Yeah, now that I'm bringing attention to it, I hold my tongue a little bit differently when I speak. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, yeah, how have I been getting used to things? Pretty good. I like our job. It's a lot of fun. That's kind of one of the main reasons for me being around, is because Dorian wasn't exactly socially eloquent yet. He hadn't relearned how to socialize with people, and he was not about to. That man's got some willpower. And yeah, I think Dorian was like Terrence's brother somehow or something. They were connected somehow. I don't know if they're supposed to integrate next, but I don't think so. I really don't think that's it. I think they're kind of like reflections of each other. And they're kind of just like kind of part of the same group a little bit. kind of how some things work in this system. We're grouped in different ways. Like, you could group someone based on their kind of shoes. Are they wearing tennis shoes or boots? And then you could group people by their shirt color. Are they wearing beige? Are they wearing blue? Are they wearing red? It's kind of like that, alters grouped by roles, by families, by their colors, sometimes elements, ether user or non-ether user. Ether is a fifth element in our inner world. That's where we got the system name from. It's the fifth element in the inner world that takes many shapes and colors depending on who it's attached to. And no, not everyone has it. It's pretty interesting. We're going to make a whole video about that another time. Will you guys see Dorian again? Yeah, probably. He's not gone. He's just kind of vibing in the back for a minute there. He just wants a good, legit break for once instead of just everyone saying, oh, we'll get you out of the front, and then him waking up the next morning like, motherfucker. Waking up was agony every time. I'm smiling right now. It still is. Waking up is horrible in the mornings. I smile to cope. I smile to cope so I can see something nice looking back at me when I'm filming instead of the reality of my feelings sometimes. My pleasantly held facial expression is as much for us as it is for saving face, I guess. That's what it was, at least. Devin was really good at that. I don't know if I am. I don't know if I would be good at hiding if we're going through distressing things or not. I don't think so, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be someone who just hides a bunch of shit all the time. I'm bored of that. Just a lot of this stuff is just we're bored of how stuff has been running as well. It's like, yeah, we're all really freaking complex. There's so many stories to get into. We don't have time to focus on all this shit. We've got a job. We've got chores. We've got cats. We've got household to be the head of now. And it's time to run differently. It's time to stop running as if we were in school. So now we've been getting more adult alters popping up, more in their mid-20s, and then our interjects are like middle-aged. One of our interjects who made himself very well known is one of Albert Wesker from Resident Evil. He's like a kind of blend of all representations of himself. He looks mostly like the one from number 5, crossed with the movie with that one boat in it. I think Resident Evil Extinction. Don't quote me. He looks like kind of a combination of himself from various video games, and he's definitely a grown-up. He's not interested in being a kid or being young. He's like, yes, I'm an adult, and I'm doing adult things. I'm not here to play. This is serious business now. We're growing up. And that's how it's kind of been. We've been getting more of those kind of alters. Cleveland becoming a fronter. What the frick? Kind of like that. It's weird because, it's those things you don't expect. Yeah, a lot of it can be unexpected. DID, expect the unexpected. That's kind of what we live by. Expect the unexpected. We were told that when we were like camping in outdoor school once. And we were like, that really vibes with me. I like that. And we've always liked that ever since. They used it for fun things like giving us like tacos for breakfast instead of pancakes. And, the fun games or whatever. But for us, it's like, yeah, entire host changes and integrations and feeling horrible somatic symptoms that you never expected you would experience in your life. Yeah, I'm helping a lot of these alters to kind of solidify and be more okay again, I guess. So you may know our one alter, Corvid. we've been getting COVID things tagged on her name constantly on Instagram, but it's Corvid as in crows. Think of crows, the birds. That's their Latin name or something. So she's basically been the torturer, the enforcer, the punisher of the system since a long time. And there were altars that were disguised as holograms. You know, the filler people that are in the inner world to kind of just make the cities not look like absolute ghost towns. It's like the generated people in Skyrim, basically. You can have like a range of conversation with them, but beyond that, it's kind of just like talking to one of those AIs on Google. It's like, why am I even doing this? So, yeah, there were altars that were disguised as those, put into the dungeon, and just left there as fixtures for years and years. And they were just Corvid's ongoing projects of what horrors she could inflict on people. Yet one guy basically got Russian sleep experimented. She took out his insides. And Morpheus was our doctor. Morpheus was our doctor. We don't have him anymore. But we do have a replacement. He did not leave us without someone who could help, which was so smart of him. He was so smart. And once he's all back together, it'll be awesome. We just have to get those other two, put them back. I know they're really cool on their own, but they need to be back in that other altar so that we are more complete again. DID is complex. We are not a good representation of this disorder. We are a representation of how extreme it can get. So yeah, back to what we were talking about a second ago with the replacement medic. Prototype is a robot that Morpheus created. That was his ongoing project. But in a good way, like building him and seeing how efficient he could be and making him have like a heartbeat and everything so that he would feel normal. It's really wholesome. He's a precious cinnamon roll. His name is Prototype. I think I already said that. And Morpheus basically copy-pasted all of his medical knowledge into that guy. Like in a microchip somehow. And just put her there. And so now we've got a medic who's just an android now. We have an android as our system's medic. And then we also have the ones from space, but that's the main planet one, is now Prototype, and we are so proud of him because he used to be kind of a mess, just a robot in progress, and now look at him, he's our doctor. Aw. Yeah, and I can be proud of my system. I can be proud of things my other system mates have done. I sure do enjoy doing that because they've done a lot of stuff for the system. Our system mates, my system mates. Pronouns are hard. There's so many of us. Us all up in this thing have done a lot for each other. We have done so much for each other. Granted, we've hurt each other a lot too, but that's part of life. We didn't know what was happening all the way. And it's understandable what was happening at that point. Sometimes you just lash out and it's just like that. We're going to make a video about how we used to be a bully. We used to be a bully, believe it or not. But we can grow and change and support each other still, even though we may take a slightly different shape than we once did. You know, not anymore Devin, but now having some more integrated altars We still say integration instead of fusion. Man, we don't want to say fusion. Fusion is when it happens non-consensually and alters from the top are smashing together other alters and forcing them to be stuck together and present simultaneously for a purpose instead of their intrinsic desires and their health. That's what fusion is for us. So we don't want to use that word for our system. Someone's like, oh, what about that fusion? We're just like, ugh, oh, wait, it doesn't mean that to you. It's like, guys, it didn't happen that way. Wait, fusion is used differently in your context. The struggle. It is so real. We try to use the word synthesize, but I don't think people are going to pick up on that at all. We're just going to keep saying integrated and then specify that we don't just mean amnesic barrier breaking down. We mean the conjoining of alters to form one rather than more than one. And we're having some more of that happen too. Bad news. Dexter is one of them as well. The Aetherian teacher. Aetherian is not what it seems either. It's more of a code rather than a language. It's a specific way of warping spoken language so that you can speak it without actually speaking it. And it's, just thrown off center enough for it to be something else. That was the whole point. Is to say it without saying it and write it without writing it. And the pattern for that was given to us. I don't think we even invented it. I mean, yeah, it came from our brain and our subconscious, but I think we were told to make such a code when we were a child. It sounds like backwards English spoken with an extremely heavy Russian accent, like that's obviously from our trauma. At my system. I didn't intend for this to turn into a rambling video, but it just did, and I'm just going with it. So, yeah. Dexter is another one integrated. He integrated with, a couple of other very fragmenty ones. And then, this morning, we figured out the last one that was missing was Sebastian. And Sebastian's a very interesting alter of ours. We've had him for a few years. He presented as splitting off as one of Parsifal's alters, but we think that was definitely not the case, and he was put there, and there's just a lot. Just basically forget the rules of the main planet, essentially. It was basically us playing house. It's like, yeah, the alters before adulthood, you're like, yeah, look at me, I'm so different. All me differences and likes and dislikes. I don't look like the host. I sound different and stuff. Let's treasure these things. And then you start to realize why. You start to see the things in the deep, and the dark. Not always, though. Not always. You don't always have to go and dig into your trauma. That's not a thing that you have to do if you don't want to. But if you do want to, you can. And we did. And, Dorian was saying things like, you don't realize when people say knowledge is a burden until you have that knowledge. And it frickin' weighs on you. Because knowing that, we learned how a lot of systems are structured, how the brain works, how it splits things off, and the inner workings of dark, dark psychology. And there's still more. we've gotten basically like 1/8, maybe a tenth. No, yeah, like a tenth of everything. Very little. Not very much. There's a lot we have to learn, and that we will learn. It's all saved. Kind of like what Morpheus did with Prototype. But a little bit different, I guess. Although we're not going to go and make people into systems. That is just not okay. Once again, I didn't realize how little space we had on our phone. Leave any more questions down below. I hope this clarified things. Take care of yourselves, goblins, and we'll see you all in the next video. This hat is gonna take forever.